The Nevada desert is a place where silence stretches beyond the horizon, where wind and sand erase footprints within minutes, and where secrets have lived longer than most of us have been alive. For decades, rumors have swirled around military installations hidden between sun-bleached mountains. Area 51, Nellis, Groom Lake, Indian Springs, places that officially exist, yet remain deliberately unexplained. In the 1960s, during the height of the Cold War, these valleys and ridges became home to more than nuclear tests, military experiments, and classified aircraft. At least, according to one man. His name is Charles James Hall, a weather observer stationed at Nellis Air Force Base. A man with one of the quietest, most unremarkable jobs in the military. A man whose duty was simply to track wind patterns and temperature changes for the pilots training above the desert. And yet, his story would eventually become one of the most controversial, unsettling, and elaborate extraterrestrial testimonies in modern American history. Charles Hall claims that during his time at Indian Springs, he encountered something not human, a race of beings he calls the Tall Whites. Not once, not in a single unusual moment, but repeatedly, consistently, and in detail so rich that believers argue no mere imagination could sustain it. Today, we revisit his story, his encounters, his claims of underground bases, his descriptions of alien society, alien technology, and visitors not just from another world, but possibly from another set of physical laws. This is the story of the Tall Whites. Chapter 1: The Man in the Desert. In 1964, Charles Hall arrived at the Indian Springs gunnery ranges, about 25 miles from the now famous Area 51. His job was isolated by design. Weather observers often worked alone, stationed miles from other personnel, monitoring temperature balloons and tracking the desert's fierce and unpredictable conditions. At first, he noticed strange shapes far out in the desert, movement that didn't resemble coyotes or wild horses, pale figures that stood too still, too tall, and too upright to be anything natural. At times, he felt watched. At other times, followed. Hall kept these observations to himself. The military was not the kind of institution where telling your superiors you had seen tall, pale beings in the desert would end well. He had a job to do, and he did it. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the strange encounters grew more frequent. According to Hall, these beings were deliberate in their approach. Cautious, observant, intelligent. Eventually, they allowed him to see them clearly. They approached his weather tower. They stood near his equipment. They observed him the way scientists might observe a new species. And it was then that he realized these were not hallucinations, not tricks of light, and not humans in unusual gear. They were something else entirely. Chapter 2: The First Close Encounters. Hall describes the Tall Whites as beings towering above ordinary humans. Adults often over 7 feet tall, with extremely pale, almost translucent skin. Their facial structure, he said, was delicate and angular, with large eyes and thin bodies that appeared fragile, yet capable of sudden bursts of speed that no human could match. They wore suits that shimmered like woven light. They spoke in tones that were high-pitched and difficult to decipher. And they carried weapons that, according to Hall, were powerful enough to kill a human instantly without leaving a visible wound. The early encounters were tense. Hall was terrified. The Tall Whites were cautious. But something about his behavior seemed to earn their trust. He did not panic. He did not attempt to flee. He remained calm even when they stood close enough for him to see the fine, glass-like texture of their skin. Slowly, the relationship evolved. Hall says they began making gestures toward him, testing communication, encouraging him to stay calm. They allowed him to witness their family units, mothers, fathers, and children. Young Tall Whites, he said, behaved curiously, even playfully, often approaching him with far less fear than the adults. What began as fear shifted into an unusual form of coexistence. Hall, the lone weather observer, became something of a tolerated presence, permitted, watched, and eventually respected. Chapter 3: A Hidden Society Beneath the Desert. One of Hall's most extraordinary claims is that the tall whites did not simply visit the Nevada desert. They lived there. He describes underground installations built into the mountain ridges and desert floor. Large living spaces hidden behind what appeared on the surface to be ordinary rock formations. Caverns lit by unknown technology, housing units that stretched deeper than the human eye could see. He claims the US government was aware of their presence and tolerated it. In exchange, according to him, the tall whites helped with certain technological developments, though the details remain vague. Hall insists that the US military did not control them, nor did they fully understand them. The tall whites, he says, operated independently, using Earth as one of many waypoints across a larger cosmic route. Their children played in the desert. Their guards patrolled the dunes. Their scientists studied the environment. Their elders enforced strict rules about how and when humans could approach them. This was not a visiting expedition. It was a settlement, community hidden in plain sight. Chapter 4. The technology that should not exist. Hall claims that their craft could move silently, accelerate instantly, and perform maneuvers inconsistent with any physical principles known at the time or even today. He describes vertical ascents without heat signatures, turns at impossible angles, and speed that blurred them into streaks of light. Most astonishingly, he insists that the tall whites routinely traveled faster than light. Not by bending space, not by wormholes, but by interacting with what he believed were unknown particles and fields, a phenomenon that inspired him to form what he later called the Hall photon theory, a theory proposing subatomic mechanisms capable of bypassing the speed limits established by Einstein. He believed the tall whites used a form of controlled gravitational and electromagnetic manipulation, enabling their craft to transition into modes of travel that rendered ordinary physical laws obsolete. Their navigation systems, he said, operated on principles beyond human mathematics. Their energy sources were small yet powerful enough to run entire spacecraft. Their weapons were compact but devastating. To Hall, it was not just advanced technology. It was a fundamentally different way of understanding reality. Chapter 5. The Other Visitors. Hall claimed he did not only encounter the tall whites. According to his testimony, the desert around Indian Springs was a meeting ground of multiple extraterrestrial races. He described the Greys, the small, dark-eyed beings commonly associated with abduction folklore. In Hall's experience, the Greys were more numerous but technologically less advanced than the tall whites. They were methodical, obedient, and almost insect-like in their behavior. He also described beings he referred to as the Nordics, tall, human-like extraterrestrials who could blend almost seamlessly among people. According to Hall, they were diplomatic and calm, often acting as intermediaries in interspecies interactions. Why these races would converge in the Nevada desert remained unclear. Hall speculated that the region held strategic or historical value, possibly stretching back to the Ice Age, long before human civilizations emerged. To Hall, the desert was not just a military site. It was a cosmic crossroads. Chapter 6. The High-Speed Horse Formation. One of Hall's most bizarre and fascinating claims is the phenomenon he called the high-speed horse formation. He described seeing groups of tall whites running across the desert at extraordinary speeds, far faster than any human could sprint. Their movements were synchronized, precise, and effortless, resembling the coordinated gallop of wild horses, but executed on two legs. To Hall, this was not simply a display of physical ability. It was a demonstration of discipline, training, and military readiness. The tall whites, despite their frail appearance, were capable of rapid and overwhelming force. These formations reinforced something Hall had sensed from the beginning. The tall whites, though peaceful at times, were not to be underestimated. They had their own hierarchy, their own laws, and their own expectations for how humans should behave around them. Chapter 7. A Flight into the Unknown. According to Hall, his relationship with the tall whites reached a level he never expected. They allowed him aboard one of their cargo craft. He describes the interior as smooth, glowing, and impossibly clean, with controls that seemed to respond to touch, thought, or something in between. The ship, he said, moved without vibration, without noise, and without any sensation of acceleration. He claims they flew him a short distance, not into space, but enough to demonstrate capabilities beyond anything human. The experience left him shaken, exhilarated, and deeply aware of how much humanity did not understand. Chapter 8: The Human Cost of Knowing Too Much. For years, Charles Hall worked alone in the desert, carrying knowledge few would ever believe and fewer could emotionally withstand. He later revealed that not all Air Force personnel assigned to the Indian Springs area handled their encounters the way he did. According to him, several soldiers reached breaking points. Some refused to return to their posts. Others experienced severe psychological distress after brief exposure to the tall white's presence. Hall believed that the beings emitted a natural, unintentional intimidation field, a psychological pressure powerful enough to overwhelm unprepared humans. He noted that those who reacted with fear or aggression were never allowed to approach the tall whites again. The beings had little tolerance for unpredictability, and their defensive technologies were always ready, always activated, and always watching. Hall insisted that his own survival depended on his ability to remain calm, rational, and emotionally detached. He believed his background in mathematics, combined with personal coping mechanisms developed from childhood trauma, allowed him to compartmentalize fear with unusual efficiency. This psychological resilience, he claimed, allowed him to function in situations that would have shattered most people. The desert was not only a test of his endurance, it was a test of his mind. Chapter 9: Military Silence and Shadows. Throughout his service, Hall said he noticed something strange. His superiors never asked questions. They gave him assignments without explanation, without warnings, and without acknowledgement of what existed in the desert around him. He believed this was intentional. According to him, the military operated on a strict need-to-know basis. If a soldier encountered the tall whites, it was considered an operational hazard, not an alien revelation. Those who panicked were quietly reassigned. Those who adapted were simply left to continue their duties. Hall's suspicion deepened when he encountered a figure he later identified only as Tim Taylor, a man he believed was deeply involved in secret programs surrounding extraterrestrial contact. Taylor appeared infrequently, offering no direct explanations, yet somehow always aware of the events unfolding around the gunnery ranges. Hall described Taylor as calm, confident, and uncannily knowledgeable, someone who carried himself as if the desert held no surprises for him. Hall believed Taylor was a key liaison, a man who knew the tall whites, who understood their routines, and who may have been part of an elite circle of military personnel sworn to silence. But who was Tim Taylor? Was he a handler, a coordinator, or a fictional creation of memory shaped by stress? Hall never discovered the truth. The man vanished as quietly as he appeared, leaving behind only questions. Chapter 10: A Relationship of Uneasy Respect. Despite the strangeness of their interactions, Charles Hall insisted that the tall whites were not hostile. They were cautious, calculated, protective of their own, but not malevolent. Over time, he developed a fragile rapport with them. The same beings who once terrified him eventually began to tolerate his presence. They allowed him to observe their movements, their family dynamics, and even aspects of their daily lives. Hall described moments of surprising gentleness. Tall white mothers calming their children, elders guiding younger members with a tone that resembled mentorship. Even instances where individuals expressed what seemed like curiosity, empathy, or amusement toward him. Yet the respect was not equal. Hall understood that he was permitted in their world, not welcomed. At any moment, their mood could shift, their rules could change, and the consequences could be immediate. It was a delicate balance. A human navigating a society not his own, walking a tightrope between fascination and fatal danger. Chapter 11: The Purpose of the Tall Whites. As the years passed, Hall attempted to piece together the reasons behind the tall whites' presence on Earth. He believed their settlement in Nevada served multiple purposes. He claimed they used the desert as a resupply station, a quiet, remote environment ideal for repairing their spacecraft, mining specific minerals, and preparing for long interstellar voyages. He theorized that Earth offered them resources unavailable elsewhere, or possibly rare biological or atmospheric elements required for sustaining their species. He also speculated that their underground facilities served as long-term housing for travelers arriving from distant star systems. According to Hall, the tall whites took decades to reach full maturity, and their lifespan was significantly longer than that of humans. They needed stable outposts where families could live and grow before continuing their journey through the cosmos. If true, this would mean that Earth was not their primary home, but rather a strategic stop along a much greater network, a cosmic highway stretching far beyond the edges of human understanding. Chapter 12, The Weapons and the Warning. Hall repeatedly emphasized one critical point. The tall whites, despite their sometimes peaceful appearance, were always armed. Their weapons were compact, wand-like devices capable of emitting lethal bursts of energy. He claimed these weapons could stun, incapacitate, or kill instantly, with effects that left no traditional wound. He observed guards accompanying families. He saw defensive units patrolling the desert ridges. And he learned the hard way that any sudden movement, emotional outburst, or perceived threat could trigger a response. Hall insisted that these beings did not trust humans. They viewed humanity the way humans might view unpredictable animals, fascinating but dangerous. He described moments where their guards raised their weapons toward him, not out of aggression but caution. He recalled instances where the tall whites warned him not to approach too closely, not to make sharp noises, and not to break the invisible rules of distance and behavior. Their message, whether spoken or implied, was always clear: respect the boundaries, or suffer the consequences. Chapter 13, After the Encounters. Eventually, Hall completed his service and left the desert behind. But the desert never left him. For years, he remained silent. He built a life, raised a family, and pursued a civilian career. Yet the memories of the tall whites, of their voices, their movements, their presence, stayed vivid. It wasn't until decades later that he finally decided to share his experiences publicly. He began writing books, recording interviews, and speaking to audiences about what he had seen. His testimony drew intense criticism from skeptics, who dismissed his accounts as fiction, hallucination, or misinterpretation of military technology. But to believers, his story was different. It was not the testimony of a man seeking fame or sensationalism, but of a quiet, analytical mind who had nothing to gain from deception. A man who never wavered in his description of events, even under scrutiny. Whether his story is a warning, a revelation, or a misunderstood chapter of history remains a matter of personal interpretation. But one thing is clear: Charles Hall never changed his account. Not once. Chapter 14. The implications for humanity. If even a portion of Hall's story is true, the implications are extraordinary. It would mean the US government has known about extraterrestrial visitors for decades. It would mean humans share the planet with advanced species who travel across the galaxy. It would mean faster-than-light travel is possible. And it would mean Earth is not isolated. It is documented, monitored, and utilized by civilizations far older than our own. It would also mean that scientific boundaries are not limits, but stepping stones. That Einstein's theories, while elegant and powerful, may not fully describe the deeper architecture of the universe. Humanity's search for life has always looked upward, but Hall suggests that life is already here. Not conquering, not invading, but passing through. Observing, resting, continuing a journey beyond the scale of human lifetimes. If the tall whites exist, their presence forces us to rethink our assumptions about physics, cosmology, and our place in the universe. Chapter 15. The final question. After all the testimonies, sightings, experiences, and theories, one question remains. Was Charles Hall telling the truth? Only two possibilities exist. Either he experienced one of the most complex and sustained extraterrestrial interactions ever recorded, or he created a story so intricate, so consistent, and so detailed that it has captivated researchers for decades. The desert offers no answers. The military offers no comment. The tall whites, if they exist, offer no confirmation. And so we are left with a story as mysterious as the sands that buried countless secrets long before Charles Hall walked into the Nevada heat. A story that challenges everything we know about reality, society, and the boundaries of human understanding. The desert remains silent. The dunes shift. The wind erases old footprints and carves new ones. And somewhere beneath the ridges of Indian Springs, truth and myth intertwine in ways we may never fully unravel. But one thing is certain: the story of the tall whites endures. If Charles Hall's account is true, then humanity has never been alone. Not in the past, not now, and perhaps not ever. Our universe is vast. Our understanding is small, and the desert still keeps its secrets. Thank you for watching. Share your thoughts below. And subscribe for more mysteries, more hidden history, and more stories from the edges of the known universe.